Hello, Wonderhussy here, hanging out at the side of a random, unidentified road in Utah, not that far from the Nevada state line. Okay, I'm right outside the city of Mesquite, which is kind of like a little casino town on the border of Utah and Nevada, but I'm way out in the back 40 of the Mesquite metropolitan area. Pulled over here to check out something really interesting that I can't believe I've never seen before. Okay, this is sort of a back road, I guess, that runs along the edge of the Mesquite area where the metropolitan area sort of meets the open desert, and it's lined on both sides by sort of red sandstone, I guess. And I don't know why this red sandstone was terraced like that, but it was. And some artist apparently decided it would make a good medium for doing sculptures. That's right, this is one of them roadside attractions that is literally a roadside attraction. And I don't know, this kind of stuff is what really floats my boat. Okay, so you can see that the embankment here is made out of a very soft sandstone that it looks like people have been carving their names into for who knows how long. Somebody even carved a Vegas Golden Knights logo there. We got an anarchy symbol there. We have SJ and OJ celebrating their love for all time. You know, basically just the usual kind of half-baked, dim-witted scribblings that you see anywhere where folks like to do graffiti. But I don't know if it's one person doing all of this or if it's a consortium, but there's some pretty elaborate art, and I'm just going to go ahead and call it art, in amongst all the half-baked, dim-witted scribblings. Okay, first you can probably see there's sort of like a castle dug out here. Somebody did a pretty good job. Maybe that's the Vegas Golden Knights as part of that. That's supposed to be the castle that the Vegas Golden Knights live in. You can see they built 3 little turrets up top and even put little roofs on them. And then they carved the shape of a castle into this sandstone. Now, unfortunately, I guess this is really soft, crumbly sandstone, and so every time it rains, I think this stuff gets worn away more and more, and so I'm glad I got out here when I did, before all of this is completely destroyed, which it looks like, unfortunately, one of the main pieces already has decomposed quite a bit. This was supposed to be Mount Rushmore, and you can kind of still tell, like, isn't that Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, or maybe that was, gosh, I don't remember what order they're in, but it looks like this poor guy, his face got completely eaten away by rain, and then this guy that was in the middle is completely gone. And I just hate to think that that was done by a vandal, and well, that sadly might be the case, and that's partly why I'm saying I'm just on some unidentified side road. I'm not saying exactly where this is, because, man, if somebody has nothing better to do than come and destroy someone's artwork, man, that's just lame. That's just like the classic bully destroying a kid's sandcastle, which is literally basically what this is. Look over here, there's the Peanuts. Somebody, I don't know if this is the same person, somebody carved the whole Peanuts gang. Isn't that wild? There's Snoopy and Woodstock, and then there's Sally, Schroeder, Linus, Charlie. Oh, there's Snoopy again. There's Lucy. Oh, wait, there's another Mount Rushmore even higher up. Oh gosh, just above the Olympic rings. I'll zoom in, look at that. There's Mount Rushmore. Maybe they had to go up there and do it over again because, well, let me go on the other side of this mesquite tree. Because that other one either got all melted away or it was too close to where people could vandalize it. This one, yeah, you can see that's Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, Teddy Roosevelt, and, oh gosh, who's on the right? Oh, I feel like I just had my Patriot card revoked because I can't remember the 4th person on Mount Rushmore. Lincoln! Duh! Abraham Lincoln! Oh, okay, well, in my defense, that doesn't look anything like Abraham Lincoln, but I should have known it was Abraham Lincoln because I have actually been to the real Mount Rushmore and not just this sandy little amateur version at the side of this random road in Utah. But in its own way, I think all this is every bit as cool as the actual Mount Rushmore. Boy, I guess this whole bluff is basically covered in little carvings. Like there's Donald Duck and Daisy Duck And apparently, if I keep hiking up ahead, there's some other pretty substantial artworks. Special shout out to the viewer who tipped me off to the existence of this. I mean, I make it my business to know about all the weird shit in the desert, and somehow, even though this is just outside Mesquite, not that far from where I live, I had never heard about it, and I probably never would have known about it if it wasn't for that viewer. So thank you. Okay, down the road just a little bit, we have an American flag. Look at that. Someone did a real nice patriotic job carving the flag into the face of this sandstone is what I'm going to call it. I'm not sure if that's the actual geologic term. Look at that. There's a little face. Somebody carved a little alcove and put a vase of flowers in it. Pretty cool, but I feel like there's something up top because there was another car here when I got here and there was people standing over here looking at something. Oh my God. It's the friggin' Statue of Liberty. Will you look at this? There's the head of the Statue of Liberty with the little spikes sticking out of her crown. I guess they had to use wood for that because sandstone would crumble. And then up at the top, there's her hand holding that torch. Golly, but the way the face is peeking out of the dirt, it kind of looks like the ending scene from the original Planet of the Apes when Charlton Heston is on that beach in Malibu, where I made a video a couple months ago, and he sees the Statue of Liberty crumbling into the ocean, and he does the whole, "You fools! You blew it up! Damn you to hell!" I mean, maybe it's just me, but that is exactly what that reminds me of. Wow. It looks like there was even a little sign in front of the Statue of Liberty that said no trespassing, and I think we are on private property. There was a sign right by where I parked my car saying no trespassing, so hopefully I don't get in trouble for being just a few steps off the pavement. I'm not going to climb up on these things. I just wanted to look at them. I'm not going to touch it. I just want to look at it. We've all heard that before. Yeah, I just want to look at it and pay my respects to whatever artist came out here and did this. Oh, if you look closely at the Statue of Liberty, it looks like there is a chicken wire base. Or there's chicken wire. Well, I'm not going to go past this no trespassing sign, but I'll go a little bit closer. There's chicken wire, I guess, protecting it so that it doesn't crumble. That's pretty cool. I mean, I don't know how much that would help in a giant monsoonal thunderstorm when rain comes. I mean, you can see how these cliffs are formed. I mean, just looking at the other side of the highway there, you can see when the water comes down, it runs through and cuts these channels and makes these really beautiful, I think, natural patterns. You know what I mean? Basically, the same forces that carved the Grand Canyon are carving interesting patterns in this soft sandstone. So I don't know that a little chicken wire is going to save this thing forever. This is ephemeral art, you guys. Okay, that's a big fancy $5 word, meaning doesn't last forever. And, you know, it's kind of like a Snapchat story. People like Snapchat because the message only lasts for 24 hours and then it's gone forever. You know, you got to enjoy it while you can. Well, that is basically the deal with this ephemeral art. You got to enjoy it while you can because it won't be here forever. So I'm really glad I came down here when I did before all this stuff is gone forever, because it looks like it is already starting to crumble, like the flame on the torch up there. Unfortunately, the elements are taking their toll, but it still looks pretty dang cool. So I'm glad I got here sooner than later. Okay, well, there's supposedly like 4 or 5 more pretty substantial artworks, just down the road here. So I guess instead of walk, I mean, I really do need exercise. Let me look at my map. Okay, I just looked at my map and a couple of them are a pretty significant distance down the highway. So I'm just going to go back to my car and keep driving down this unfinished lane that they've already graded and put down the road base and laid some asphalt. They just haven't put the top coat on it yet. So it's a great place to park if you want to come check these things out. What I like about these particular earthworks is that they're free and they're accessible to anyone who wants to come look at them. Now, the downside with that is anyone who wants to can go vandalize them, but it's just a refreshing change from some of these snooty land art projects out here. I'm not going to name any names, but I've made videos in the past about these there's these giant, I think it's called land art, where these artists come out with bulldozers and move the earth around and make these cool shapes, like Spiral Jetty up by the Great Salt Lake. I camped out there and made a video there once. Really cool, large-scale, free public access art project. And then there's one called Double Negative over here on top of a mesa that I went to. Same. But then there's another one that's been all over the news lately, and man, they charge you like $150 to go look at it. A. B, you're not allowed to take any photos or video. And C, even though I have applied 2 or 3 times to pay $150 to go look at this thing and not even take a damn photo, I've been denied every time. And so I'm not gonna lie, that kind of elitist bunkum sticks in my craw. And so I'm gonna go ahead and make the bold statement right here and right now that these sandstone carvings on the side of the road in Mesquite are way cooler than that other large-scale land art project. Okay, anyway, oh look, there you can see the sign. It says no trespassing, subject to a fine of up to $1,000. So I don't know if that applies to the artist who's doing this, or is this the private property belonging to the artist and he has that up to warn you not to go up and vandalize or deface his carvings. That might be the case. Maybe it's $1,000 fine if you're busted going up there trying to destroy all the hard work he's done. I don't know. Could be either. Anyway, let's keep on driving down the road. There's supposed to be one not too far ahead. Oh god, I really don't want to put my seatbelt on if I'm just driving like 1/8 of a mile along the shoulder. But it's gonna keep bing, bing, binging at me if I don't. But thankfully, somebody gave me these little clips they 3D printed. Put that in there and that'll shut the nanny state government right up. God, now the police are probably gonna get me for not wearing a seatbelt. Okay, so we just looked at that bluff. Now I'm gonna keep driving. You can see what a beautiful day it is here in gorgeous Mesquite, Nevada. It's about, I don't know, 80 degrees, very pleasant out, not windy. Light scattered clouds, just enough to keep the worst of the sun off you. Okay, I think there's supposed to be another trespassing. There's supposed to be another one over here, and I think it's supposed to look like the Great Sphinx from Egypt. Oh, yep, here it is. I can see it right up on top of this hill here. Oh, wow. Yeah, now I feel like I'm back in Vegas looking at the Luxor Hotel. Isn't that cool? Look at that. There's the Sphinx. You can see his head and his snooty expression staring proudly up into the sky. It looks like his nose broke off, unfortunately. But I don't know. Isn't that kind of how the real Sphinx is, too? I feel like the real Sphinx is so old, part of it's worn away, too. And then there's even, like, those hands, those claws, because isn't the Sphinx sort of like half lion or something? I feel like if you walk past the Luxor Hotel in Vegas, there's that thing out front. It has those 2 big paws. Those are his paws. Far out. Oh, look, you can see here comes another truck. Probably some more folks wanting to check out these sandstone carvings. I guess there's not much going on here in Mesquite other than this awesome free art. Okay, I guess I better put my real seatbelt back on because I don't want to set a bad example. You know, I'm not anti-seatbelt. I'm actually very pro being alive. And so I always wear my seatbelt. I just thought it was a little silly to put it on for this, you know, I'm going, what, 100 feet up the highway? Well, actually, I guess I'm going to go a little bit farther because there's supposed to be 2 more things here to check out. Let's see. Oh, here, this looks like... is that supposed to be a quarter? Oh yeah, this is one of the other ones I wanted to check out. According to what I read online, this is the Mesquite, Nevada? I guess we're in Nevada, actually. I'm on the Nevada side of the border. Whoopsie. Anyway, this is the Mesquite, Nevada version of Stonehenge, where the demons dwell and the banshees live, and they do live well. Do I have any other Spinal Tap fans out there watching this? Oh, I'm looking forward to seeing Spinal Tap 2 coming out any day now. Anyway, yeah, look at this. This artist carved Stonehenge columns. You know how at Stonehenge there's those two pillars and then the little lintel piece going across the top? I think it's called a lintel. Well, he carved, I'm saying it could have been a woman, I suppose. And how retrograde of me to assume it was a man, but I don't know, this kind of seems like the kind of thing a dude would do, you know, some grandpa whose kids are all grown and left the nest, and maybe his wife passed away and he just needed something to occupy his time, keep him busy, keep him out of trouble, you know. Mesquite, there's casinos. You know, he'd rather have something constructive to do with his time than go piss all his money away gambling in some cigarette smoke filled casino. And so instead he's out here in the fresh air and sunshine carving the 7 wonders of the world into the living sand of Nevada's Stonehenge. I mean, are these the 7 wonders of the world? I don't actually know what the 7 wonders of the world are. I think Stonehenge is one of them, and the Great Sphinx might be one of them, but I don't think the Statue of Liberty is considered one of the 7 wonders of the world, as amazing as it is. I don't know. What do you guys think? Is this cool or is this lame? You know, depending on whether or not the artist actually owns this property or not, it could be considered vandalism. You know, whoever owns this land might want it to look natural, just like it does on the other side of the highway. You know, like just a few channels cut by rivulets of rain. None of this crazy crap. This might be considered an extreme act of vandalism to the property owner. Not to mention now you got all these yahoos like me coming by and parking and stopping to get out and look at it. And well, you know how it is, even if you're not purposely littering, it seems like places like this, there's almost inevitably going to be a few candy wrappers on the ground, a few water bottles, maybe even a few beer cans. I mean, we are on the Nevada side of the border, so, you know, beer cans are a real possibility. But, you know, I don't see any. I haven't seen any litter out here. It's pretty clean, as are all the streets of this tidy little municipality. Oh, look, there's even a state of Nevada somebody carved into the side. That's cool. And then it looks like these are meant to be like petroglyphs, or I don't know. I thought those were meant to be petroglyphs, but I can't really quite tell what those are. Any ideas? Well, regardless what those are, this is definitely supposed to be the state of Nevada, and they even put a little hole, a little belly button there, where we are in Mesquite, right on the Utah-Nevada border. About a quarter of the way up. Sort of like a "you are here" on an informational sign. Okay, anyway, I think there's one more noteworthy carving just up ahead, so I'll get back in the car and check that out. You know me, I like to be thorough. I'll go ahead and put on my seatbelt, even though there's no cars around or anything. I'll be honest, I kind of thought that pickup truck was the police, and so I wanted to make sure I had my seatbelt on, just in case they were about to bust me for trespassing. I figure I'd give them one less thing to be mad about. But it wasn't the police, it was just some other random people checking out these bluffs. Oh yeah, I guess this is the last one that I had marked on my map to check out. Look at that. It's Easter Island heads. Or I guess technically they're called Moai. Okay, you know, Easter Island, you've probably seen these on the TV. Easter Island is some island way off the coast of Ecuador, I think, Chile, someplace down there. And there's these giant carvings on this island of these huge human heads, but they're unique because of their features. And they all have these sort of weird forehead and deep set eyes and long nose, and they have the backs of their heads are flat. Unfortunately, we can't see what the backs of the heads look like on these because, well, their backs of their heads are buried in the cliff, but you know what I mean. These are those Easter Island heads. This here looks kind of almost more like a monkey, but I guess, yeah, I guess that was an Easter Island head too. Oh, look at this one. This one looks like it's still being worked on, maybe. I mean, isn't that cool? I just think that's so cool. This kind of reminds me when I went to Burning Man a few years ago when it rained very heavily and everybody was bogged down in the mud, and a bunch of people started to scoop up the mud and sculpt with it, make sculptures. You know, when life hands you lemons, make lemonade. You might be stuck living in some godforsaken border town that's 99% retired people on the edge of nowhere, smack dab in the middle of the broiling hot Mojave Desert, and your wife might have just passed away and you might not have anything better to do with your time than go gamble in a casino, but you decided to come out here and make lemons out of that lemonade by carving art into these, I think, beautiful sandstone formations. I'm kidding, you know, obviously, if you didn't get it when I said all that stuff about Mesquite. I actually really like Mesquite. Seems like a pretty interesting place to live. I mean, you can kind of see over here. Well, I mean, obviously, it's totally sun-baked desert, but I guess they have some kind of aquifer or groundwater, or probably more realistically, some kind of straw from Lake Mead or Lake Powell, keeping the town green. You can see in the distance there's lots of trees. They've got golf courses. The desert on all sides is full of off-roading trails, so you can take your side-by-side out, go exploring. It's actually probably a pretty amazing place to live. Actually, little known fact, the guy who did the shooting on top of the Mandalay Bay, the guy who I think took out more people in a single act than any other mass shooting in US history, that guy, he lived in Mesquite. And so when they were trying to figure out like what the motivation was behind that, if you remember, the SWAT team got him. I don't remember if the SWAT team killed him or he killed himself, whatever, he died at the scene. But so they went to his house in Mesquite to try to figure out, you know, what the hell caused this? And they busted in his garage door and the whole place was sitting there looking all abandoned for a long time. I'm sure somebody else has bought that house now and they've tidied it up, because Mesquite is one of those towns where it's all developed, planned neighborhoods with HOAs, and I'm sure the HOA would not let that kind of thing fly for very long, even if it was considered a crime scene. Anyway, I'm totally digressing. I don't know. He lived somewhere out there in one of these beautiful little cookie cutter golf course communities out here in the beautiful Mojave Desert, right on the edge of the Utah-Nevada state line. Anyway, that's pretty much all there is to these quirky roadside bluff carvings. I guess I'll go ahead and call them bluff carvings. I thought it was definitely worth a stop. I mean, I'm traveling along Interstate 15 anyway from, I was up in Moab, Utah. Now I'm headed back to Death Valley, and I gotta go right through this part of the country. So I thought, why not pull off, get out, stretch my legs a little bit, and go check out some very interesting, very quirky ephemeral art. I mean, in my opinion, this is the kind of stuff that makes America truly great. So, to the artist, whoever he or she may be, if you happen to be watching this video, salute. I have a huge measure of respect for what you're doing out here, and I think you're super cool.